Hello, Shane. How you doing?
Borna, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Good to see you here again on Borna Kazerani's show. I really appreciate your time. So, tell me what you're going to do today.
Brilliant. Everything's fantastic. I am going to sing an original song. It's called Love to See You, and it's inspired by Cat Stevens. Just a simple lyrics, simple chords, and also a girl, of course.
Please, whenever you're ready.
Soft and
Thank you.
All right.
I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. I'd love to see your flowing hair. I'd love to see your body there. I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. I'd love to spend some time away, your company for one whole day. I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. And she always puts a smile upon my face, like the sunrise every day. I leave her flowers on the doorstep of her place, to say I love you by the way. You're the girl that I love best, I do. You're the girl that I love best, I do. You're the girl that fills my head, the girl I want to share my bed. You're the girl that I love best, I do. And she always puts a smile upon my face, like the sunrise every day. I leave her flowers on the doorstep of her place, to say I love you by the way. And she always puts a smile upon my face, like the sunrise every day. I leave her flowers on the doorstep of her place, to say I love you by the way. Love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. I'd love to see you, if you don't mind, I do. And I do, and I do, yeah I do, and I do, and I do, yeah I do. I would really love to see you, and I do, and I do, and I do, yeah I do. Thank you so much, Borna, for having me on your show once again. Enjoy the rest of the show, ladies and gentlemen, and Borna, thank you.
John!
Hi, how's it going?
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Well, we've been just trying to be positive, proactive in such a crazy circumstances here in Melbourne, Australia. But yeah, I've been doing okay. So, hard things in New York.
You know, things in New York are getting better. I mean, I feel like we really had Corona under control. Now there being some small spikes in cases along Brooklyn. So I think, so they're taking the provisions. I don't know, I feel very safe in New York. That's what I will say. I feel very safe, and I feel like they've been doing a really good job. So, you know, we're just trying to stay busy, keep working, and keep it moving.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So I've got lots of questions here for you. Before I'm going to start my conversation with you, would you like to say hi to those who are watching us now and later?
Hi, I'm John Key. I'm so excited to be here.
All right. So, John, I love simple and creative work. One of the highlights of your work is a creativity in the color scheme of your paintings. For example, most of your paintings are black people, and at the first, things actually that catches the viewer's eyes is the whitest of their eyes, and I know that you're doing it on purpose. And talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the color scheme. So I paint in 4 colors. Black for blackness, like you spotted out. Thinking about race and identity and skin color. Red for family, which is really thinking about rebirth and ancestry and lineage and bloodline. And then green for southernness. So I'm originally from Seale, Alabama. And I grew up basically on a farm, essentially growing up with cows and horses and pigs and chickens and all of that around me, which is very bucolic and verdant. So that's definitely inspired by that. And then violet, which is my queer color. And I love this because, you know, red and blue makes purple, and violet is actually a true color. Like, it's not a color that exists in this binary. It's actually a spectral color. Like, it exists in the earth as violet, with its own properties. So I think that's very interesting that violet is working outside of this binary. And so, yeah, and then I think you pointed out also the white of the eyes. So a lot of the paintings you have, I mean, some of the paintings you have this contorted figure who's responding to the frame, right? Who's responding to, I guess, could be societal pressures, family pressures, all of the things, right? I think people can also add their own values to that. But there is this agency that the man still has, and this agency of him looking back at the camera and at the viewer and saying, I'm a person, I'm still here, I'm human. And I think this is a tension, right? I think with a lot of marginalized people that are maybe being, like, the projection onto their bodies might be one that is dismissive or even violent. But I think that this stare is really trying to capture that resilience.
Very interesting. So, interesting. Yes, I didn't know that, but that was the very first thing actually drew my attention when I started looking at your paintings. So, I would like to know how much you agree with me on the environment in which an artist grows up in will have a direct impact or influence on the creation of his or her work in the future. Talk to me about that. What do you think? What is your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me personally, because I can't really speak for all artists, but for my personal practice, I am very much invested in my personal narrative, my personal history. That's where all of my work began, was writing and reflecting on memories of my childhood. And when I approached these 4 pillars of my identity, Blackness, queerness, Southernness, and family, those were all informed by writing that was really critically thinking about how did I grow up, answering these questions of what does it mean to be a Black graphic designer, Black artist? What does it mean to be a queer artist? What does it mean to be a Southern artist? Like, do those things matter? Do those things show up in my work? How has my family impacted the work and me, and how is that reflected in my work? So yeah, I think personally for me, my upbringing, all of that played a lot of role in it. I mean, even more so thinking about, like, my mom would set up a craft table for my twin. I have a twin, Jarrett. Their name is Jarrett. And so we would do arts and crafts as a kid, you know, and we did music and we did theater, we did a cappella, we were in church pageants, we, you know, did, like, played all the musical instruments, you know, did theater. So I think at a very early age, I was also very exposed to the arts and the power of that art can give you in terms of self-expression, which I think is interesting.
Actually, my next question is very related to what I'm going to ask you. And you just started talking about your childhood. I want to take you back to years ago. And when was the first time that you realized that, like, that you want to be an artist in the future, which is today, obviously? And why artists? And what did really inspire you? Which is very important because, yeah, you told me.
Yeah, that's a great question. So like I said, I mean, I grew up doing art. You know, it was like a natural thing around me. And even more so, when I was around 10 years old, my mom's friend from her work brought home an HTML book, which was like, you know, early coding language. So I completely gravitated toward that. I was like, wow, you can type in words in the computer to make visual things. That is extremely fascinating to me. And then I can build this visual world, my visual experiences, I can create a world and community, which I thought was always really exciting. So I was teaching myself how to code, you know, at 10 years old. I was teaching myself how to paint at 10 years old. And then like later on in high school, really in middle school, I was doing like college Java classes and like really into that, right? But it wasn't really until I was a sophomore in high school when a friend of mine was going through the student perspective book for Savannah College of Art and Design. It's like that book that people get before you go to college. Like, these are the classes that, you know, we offer here. And I was flipping through that and I was like, whoa, what is this graphic design section? Like, what is that? Like, and it was websites, it was posters, it was illustrations, it was drawings, it was all of the things that I was already doing and didn't even know you could go to school for. I didn't even know that was a career opportunity. And so that was when I was in the 10th grade. So at that moment, like literally that moment, I was like, I'm gonna do this. This is what I want to do. Like, I didn't even know you could do this, and now I can. Now you can do that. So that's when I kind of dropped everything in high school and like went full art, like did all the art stuff, did APR, all of it, and SCAD summer seminar and RISD pre-college and all of these experiences that really validated me wanting to pursue this.
Wow, that's very interesting. And back then, you were still in Alabama, am I right?
Exactly.
And how the arts industry goes in Alabama, so it's not really artistic city, am I right?
Well, actually, surprisingly, where I come from, I'm from Seale, Alabama, which is right next to Phoenix City, Alabama, which is right next to Columbus, Georgia. So we're on the border of Georgia. And Columbus, Georgia, the downtown area, was always quite artistic, actually. And particularly now, now is like a mecca for, I don't know, like art in the South. They have so many amazing museums and galleries and amazing thriving art school there. So, I mean, all of those resources weren't there, but there was this sense of, you know, you can go out and make work and you can be an artist and there is an artistic community. But I don't think, like, again, it wasn't anything that I was aware of until, you know, high school, really.
And the things became quite serious for you.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is serious. Like, you can actually do this. Like, this is a real thing.
Of course. You are present in many of your paintings, and seeing your works gives me feeling that you seems to want to show us a part of your characters through each painting. And at the same time, you want to convey a message to us. Talk to me about that.
I think that's very apt. I think as I've been working on the series like painting now, I think in New York for about 4 years, maybe 5 years. 4 years, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I don't know. And each painting, you know, I started with the man in the violet suit in this void, flat color plane, really thinking about contortion, really thinking about how the edges can surround this man, how he responds, how his body responds. And then from that, I moved him into the outside world, kind of escaping this void and creating a world in his own image, but also critiquing historical landscapes and historical instances of, you know, what stories get told in nature and who stories get excluded from nature or from the landscape. So yeah, so then that was a whole body of work in itself. And then moving the man from this exterior world to an interior world. And I think as you move into private spaces and you know, investigating like living rooms and bedrooms and dining rooms and things like that, but also these moments where you're alone. And then the man, it becomes stripped down and he becomes bare, right? And now it's like a different performance. Like what happens when you are, you know, away from your projected identities and even ones that are forced upon you? How do you remove yourself from those spaces? And so, yeah, and now, you know, the newest work, which I'm getting, like I've just sent a few paintings off, is really thinking about my chosen family. I guess before that I was also investigating my biological family and looking at paintings of my mom and my grandma and my dad and my granddad, and then the family portrait structure. And now I'm looking at chosen family, which is like, you know, a queer community, and that's not biological, but that still acts as, you know, peers become brothers and sisters, mentors become parents, and painting that world as well. So it has been, you know, an evolution, and I love, and it is this long story that I'm telling about this character that is me, but also is so many other things.
That's very easy to understand. That's very, very easy to understand, and I love that. Another things I like about your work, which I find quite difficult, is the proper use of geometric shapes like circles, squares, rectangles, and this difficulty can be felt when you use it in the details of your characters you create, like their faces, like their necks, you know, it's just like that, and their bodies. So tell me about that. I'm actually really interested to know.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the geometric visual vocabulary again stems from writing and also stems from my personal experience. So my personal history. So for example, my grandmother's, my mom's nickname was Polka Dot. And so the polka dots come up a lot in my painting, really referencing the matriarch of my family. And then vice versa of that, or versus that, is the patriarch, my dad and my granddad. And so my dad owns a construction company and would wear to work these plaid shirts. And I would think of them as his uniforms and abstracting those shapes from that. And so, you know, thinking about this patriarchy, this matriarchy, this duality that makes up a body is something that I'm interested a lot in about. And then I think also like me being a graphic designer, me approaching, you know, this lens from like an abstracted, very typographic, technical eye. Also, I think, I mean, I love the simplicity that you can, you know, abstract the body in simple geometric forms, but also that can articulate so much emotion and so much power. Yeah, so it's a combination of all of those things.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting. I can feel it actually. I can see it in your latest works more actually, your latest paintings, and that's amazing. Now I want you give us a tour and show us some of the stuff that you've got there at your studio, and talk to us about those things that probably hang on the wall or whatever else you prefer to show us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I'm going to...
And you can reverse the
camera. Here we go. This is what we want. Boom. So this is this is one of my new paintings. This is for a show that's actually online with Steve Turner, so you can Google it, or you can go in my link in my profile. There's a link to it. But this is for a painting for that show that is entitled Sealed. The show is. It's a duet show with my twin brother. And so this is one of the paintings of the man in the violet suit, this character, this mythology that I created, that's existing in an interior space. Right? It's existing in a living room. And I think this is really the first painting where I'm really bringing in true elements of my actual personal living space into this painting world. So my couch actually has like multicolored buttons like this. And, you know, it is kind of a reflection of my like architecture of my space as well. And then in the background of this painting, there is an abstracted portrait of my grandmother. And so I did a larger painting of her for the Armory show earlier this year, right pre-COVID. And so this is an abstraction of that painting. And a lot of my paintings also incorporate plants and still lifes and plays with like bringing the outside in, and like how does that, you know, become a wallpaper? How does it become a texture? How does it become its own figure in a space? And yeah, so then you can see obviously the polka dots and the squares and all the things that we're talking about, and how all of this very limited color palette really resolves itself in one frame. Other paintings.
No, hang on.
Yeah.
I want you to get closer, and I like to see the details actually.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so.
Let's go now. Good. Oh my God, that's amazing. Wow. Can you do it a little bit slowly?
Oh, there's a light on, so there's a little bit of a glare.
Wow.
Dots, dots, dots.
How long did it take to complete this?
Yeah, good question. So there's like a lot of keloid lines. How long did it take me to complete it? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe like 3 or 4 weeks. I normally get them started really fast and get them to an almost complete place, and then take kind of another week or two to like really finesse all the details. And you know, it's this very fine line between perfection and the hand. And I think that is something that I'm trying to really get at. I think before the paintings might have been a little bit more perfect and precise, but I think I want to reveal more of myself in these rather structured, rather sharp, rather geometric, flat world. So, and this is like the abstracted painting of my grandmother, which is basically a silhouette, and her abstracted.
Sorry, did you say what's the concept about?
For this painting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this painting, again, is speaking about the man in the violet suit in interior spaces, right? And this friction between, I mean, really having my grandmother as a figure literally hovering in the background, bringing her into my present life, right, is this, you know, I don't know, this past, this lineage, this family, bringing into my New York life, my New York home, a different location. And it's this tension. I think there is this tension of how me as a Southern person shows up in New York City. And how am I bringing my family with me and the reminders of my family in my daily life?
That's very meaningful. So thank you very much. No, we can move to another painting.
Yeah, I mean, so I can show these paintings. So this is so a series of paintings that I'm calling The Man. So the other paintings are the man in the suit. This is just the man outside of the suit. And I think this is series 11 out of, I think it's 11 or 12. Out of 13 or 14, I have the other ones here. And so I was doing a lot of kind of harkening back to my early work of having these figures against flat backgrounds, right? And again, like I was saying earlier, you know, what is a private space stripped away from projected identities? How can one live with their body, you know, and their self, you know? And I think a lot of these paintings are really about self-care as well. Like all of the figures are holding themselves, you know, and this is another example, you know, the figure is touching himself, embracing himself, you know, looking at the viewer again and recognizing, you know, this is my time. And then these two paintings down here, so these are black on black paintings. So these are bigger, 30 by 40. And so I think about these being very timely to what's happening right now, you know, in New York City and with the Black Lives Matter movement and with, you know, Black people really trying to figure out ways to survive and thrive under systems that really don't want us to, you know, truly. And where does, you know, this idea of fighting for your country and saving your country and saving yourself come from. And it's really, I think, you know, in ourselves. I think it's been passed down from us, you know, from generations of and legacies of strong people who have survived and thrived. Yeah.
You made a point about Black Lives Matter movement, and I wanted to ask you about this question later. But while you're showing us this painting, I would like to bring this question instead. I want to know actually what's your point of view actually about Black Lives Matter movements. The reason that why I'm asking you this because because I have different color skin, but because of my accent, I've experienced racism also, and different way. But because your skin color and, you know, as a black, as an African American artist, what is your opinion about this regard?
Absolutely. So the Black Lives Matter movement, I mean, was started on Twitter by Alicia Garza, and it was really a poem love letter to, you know, America and to her children and to the next generation, saying that our lives matter. And it was a direct response to all the atrocities that were happening in terms of, I mean, there's so many names at this point. Eric Garner, I think, was one of the first people, you know, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin. I mean, we should just go on and on and on. And so, I mean, I'm not going to cry. But it is, you know, to me, it's a very important movement because it is trying to tell the world that Black people are human, really, and deserve respect and equality, really. And it's so basic. And when people take it to all lives matter, we're not saying that all lives don't matter. That is, I mean, I think if you say Black lives matter, then you're actually recognizing that all lives matter, right? And in saying all lives matter, then you're discounting, discrediting, and erasing, right, the Black body once again, right? The struggle, the truth, the facts, the lives. So Black Lives Matter is, you know, and ignited a new modern day civil rights movement.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, what else we've got there?
So the last thing I can share, which is an older painting actually, but so this painting, so I used to do paintings on paper. And this is a painting from my very first solo show in New York City. And this is a painting that I kept because I didn't want to sell it. And, you know, at some points, I think this is important though. Artists have to figure out which works they want to keep. Because if you can't like sell everything, you know, you have to keep some things for yourself, some things for your personal collection. And I love this painting. And so again, this was really thinking about the man exploring the outside world, really becoming one with nature, really building, again, the landscape in his own image, in the image of his community, right? Thinking about a more equitable place. And I think it's also, you know, really speaks to this mythology as well. I mean, creating this world, right, that is completely fabricated based off of my own memories. So like, again, this is like flowers. So this is a southern capsula flower, which is a heart-shaped flower that is very popular where I am growing up in Alabama. So you can like see it in my backyard. So again, bringing in these types of elements of home and this verdant bucolic landscape is really important. And so yeah, these paintings were on paper. And I think when I originally started the paintings, it was also a direct response to the post-Orlando nightclub shooting, which at that point was one of the largest massacres of, you know, on American soil. And it was at a queer nightclub. And at that night, it was all mostly queer people of color. And really thinking about the spaces that we take up and claim as safe for ourselves and for our communities, and what happens when those spaces get taken away, and how do you create new spaces and new worlds for yourself?
Absolutely. amazing. I love your work. I love it.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna sit my phone back down.
I really appreciate it. You're a great tour. And if I'm talking, I know it's not easy to do the things at the same time. You're in New York, am I right?
In Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh, well, fantastic. So, so you are living in one of the biggest and famous city on the planet, where is everyone's wishes to go there. So we also know the competition in New York is extremely high. And now you are dealing with that somehow. I want you to talk to me about the challenges, because I know there are lots of artists in the world who, wants to go to New York, start like from scratch. But I want to know, as a young artist, so what's the things that you're struggling with, or the challenges as an artist? That's
Yeah, I mean, the challenges are endless, right? I mean, it's expensive, I think, is the number one challenge. And I think that is, my twin literally, Jared, has a studio in Providence, bigger than my studio, and they're paying 25% of the price, So it's like, so things like that are definitely, that's the number one challenge. I think that's an overarching challenge for everyone. And then, the other thing is, I think, as an artist, you have to find community. You have to, you can't do anything alone. You can't even carry a big canvas or a painting alone. And so you have to build a community around you. And so I think I was very lucky that I went to school in Providence, and a bunch of my friends from Providence moved from Providence to New York. And we ended up working a lot together and creating an arts collective that really allowed us to support each other's art and support each other's practices. And also be a, spearhead to meet other people in the New York community, meet other queer people of color artists, right? And so that was definitely a challenge. And I think the way that we overcome it is literally tapping into your networks, building community, finding people that share your interests, right? And so that is, I think, that's always very hard, because I think also working as an artist is very kind of isolating practice. You're doing mostly, oftentimes, people have different practices, but you're doing it alone, mostly. So yeah, I guess, yeah, other challenges. I always like to say, though, that if you work hard and if you build a practice and if you share your practice with people who support you, then you can make it in New York. I think there's enough space for so many artists to thrive. And it's just clear, literally every single day, you're discovering 100 new artists that are all thriving and making amazing work. And I think that's why also people come here, because there is so many people, but there are also so many opportunities, right? Small, big, or you can create your own opportunities. The very first time we showed art in New York City was at a house show that was produced by our arts collective, and we invited 150 people there, and 150 people showed up and got our word out about our work. And so also it's just being creative. Creativity, obviously, in terms of making the work, but also being creative in terms of how you get your work out there, but also being vulnerable, but also strong enough to share your work, because I think that's also very important.
I think that's very important, and I'm glad you shared some of these experiences, because it's good to know actually what things you might face when you move to New York. But I believe the New York's gonna completely change since, it probably has already changed the environment due to COVID-19. And we have to wait to see actually if people are more interested to move to New York longer, because it's been crazy. And these social platforms has been helping people a lot to promote their works a lot. Am I right?
Absolutely. Instagram obviously is such a force for sharing visual things and connecting with people, and DMing people and finding new contacts, and collectors seeing your work and galleries seeing your work and all of that. So again, I think if you're making work and you have a practice and you also are sharing your work with the world, then I think that if you continue to do that, you will, I don't know, make it is weird. I don't know if like making it is what you're trying to do. You're trying to have a healthy practice, right? You're trying to sustain yourself. You're trying to build a community. You're trying, like making it, I'm not sure what that means. You can make it in so many ways. You can make it by building 100 people around you who love you and support you, and you support them. Like that's making it, you know? So again, there's just so many ways to thrive, and you know, that's what I would just say.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. I appreciate that. So you're also a designer. So did painting and designing happen at the same time, or which one came first?
They basically happened at the same time. I mean, I basically was painting and starting graphic design at 10 years old, you know, but I didn't know those were things that I was doing. I was just doing those things. And now, you know, it's a practice that I'm constantly negotiating with and also figuring out, but they inform one another. You know, I think design informs my art practice, you know, in terms of visual things, seeing the world, being able to see composition, being able to even use the tools of the graphic design, like Illustrator and these things to actually transpose these ideas. And then the painting obviously informs the design. I mean, conceptual ideas, color, like being able to tell the story, I think is very interesting. And so both of these practices, you know, inform one another. And I think you see them in one another too. You know, I think it's very clear. When I say I'm a designer, people are like, you are absolutely a designer. And when I tell other people I'm a painter, and they're like, you're absolutely a painter. So I think it is, I think it's a great
Combination.
Yeah, combination.
John, I love my conversation with you, and we've been in touch over the past few months probably. So, and I'm so glad we eventually made it. I really appreciate that. I've got lots of questions here, and I'm sorry, I have to wrap it up. So, sorry, I got lots of questions. So
we can do another Q&A session, but yeah.
Because people come and go, and so if you have any questions, please go to John's page and then send her a direct message.
Yeah,
So,
I love it.
Is there anything else that you want to add to what we were talking, or and probably I didn't ask you?
I thought you did a great job. You asked a lot of great questions and very thorough. I don't know. I mean, I guess the other part of my practice that we haven't talked about is teaching. I'm an educator. I teach at Cooper Union, and that is something that I love. And I think it also informs my practice and learning from and being inspired by my students, and really being able to bring my personal pedagogy in terms of writing forward, in terms of how I can approach your design is very interesting. And like being able to have people to not experiment, that sounds not nice, but like to workshop these ideas with, and to, you know, and I don't know, and the students are so bright and so smart and so creative and so inventive. So they're constantly, you know, showing me about new things that I'm not aware of, and new artists and new trends and things. So it's very fun. I love teaching, and yeah, so.
Yeah, when I was reading your biographies, you teach at the university, am I right?
Yeah, it's at Cooper Union.
How is that?
Yeah.
How is that experience?
It's been great.
Okay. John. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully to meet you one day in reality. I never met any one of my guests. So hopefully they're gonna open the borders, and then I can travel probably out of Australia. But thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much, Borna. I loved it. It was amazing. This was so great. Thank you for reaching out. And yeah, I do hope that we're able to meet in one person. I would love to come to Australia one day. I mean, that would be amazing. So when I do, I'll hit you up for sure.
You will. All right. It was lovely talking to you. I'm going to say goodbye to you, and I'll catch you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.